One episode of The Twilight Zone was withheld from American television for roughly 50 years, and no one has ever put their name on the decision to pull it. That's not the only thing this series kept close to its chest. We're uncovering 10 hidden truths about The Twilight Zone, the 1959 original, including the famous theme music that was never actually written for the show, the actor who played a book-loving everyman before he became one of television's great villains, and the composer whose work was frightening audiences in Hitchcock's theaters and Serling's living rooms at almost the exact same time. The man who built this series had already lost one fight with the networks before the first episode aired, and what he took from that loss quietly shaped every story the show would tell. 10 facts, the original run. Here we go.
So he now turns to homicide.
Number 1. 50 Years Gone. An episode of this series disappeared from American television for approximately half a century, and the decision to pull it was never formally attributed to anyone. In 1964, during the show's 5th and final season, an episode titled The Encounter aired on NBC. It starred George Takei as Taro, a young Japanese-American man hired to clean out the attic of a World War II veteran named Fenton. The episode was withheld from U.S. syndication almost immediately after that single airing, remaining off American television for roughly 50 years. The reasons cited consistently involved two specific elements: a scene depicting Taro's father as having informed on fellow Japanese Americans during the war, and a Japanese sword presented as exerting a supernatural compulsion over Taro, a combination Japanese American community organizations found harmful and historically false. Who made the withdrawal decision isn't confirmed anywhere. No network executive, distributor, or production representative ever formally acknowledged it. The episode wasn't pulled worldwide. In the United States, it was simply gone.
He was so bored with constantly being the only survivor.
Number 2. The Sponsor's Cut. The show's creator had already been rewritten by a sponsor before The Twilight Zone existed, and that experience changed the structure of the entire series. Rod Serling came to The Twilight Zone carrying a documented history of battles with commercial pressure. His Emmy-winning teleplay, Requiem for a Heavyweight, broadcast on Playhouse 90 in 1956, was altered before air when sponsor pressure forced the removal of a reference to a competing automaker. Serling later said publicly that the anthology science fiction format he chose for The Twilight Zone was a deliberate structural response to that experience. A straight drama about race, conscience, or the cost of war could be flagged at the outline stage. A parable about a man who survives a nuclear war and just wants to read. That got through. The format was, in part, camouflage.
Which, after all, is The Twilight Zone.
Number 3. 92 scripts. Rod Serling personally wrote 92 of the series' 156 episodes, a pace the network actively depended on to keep production costs in line. Writing or co-writing nearly 60% of all episodes meant the show's primary creative voice was also its primary source of scripts. And since Serling wasn't billing separately for rewrites, the production held a tighter per-episode budget than it could have sustained with a rotating stable of outside writers. Serling also arrived at CBS with an Emmy already behind him, a writer with a track record, negotiating from demonstrated value. That combination, high volume and network credibility, is what made 5 seasons of an anthology series economically workable at all. That volume also kept the show's voice remarkably consistent from episode to episode, in a genre where anthology formats usually rotate through writers with very different sensibilities. Serling wasn't just the most prolific contributor, he functioned as the show's de facto editor, shaping tone and theme across nearly 2/3 of the run without a writer's room diluting the through line.
Look at me! What do you think?
Number 4. Not his music. The 4-note theme universally associated with this series was never composed for it. It was a library cue that editors selected after the pilot had already aired. Composer Marius Constant wrote the piece as part of a collection of short cues for a French record label, and CBS music editors chose it from that library after the pilot had already aired, with a different theme entirely. The show never commissioned the Twilight Zone theme. That identity accumulated around music that already existed, selected simply because it worked. The pilot's original theme was superseded and forgotten, and one of the most imitated musical signatures in American television history began as a stock selection. The non-obvious part isn't that the theme became famous, it's that it arrived the way many of the show's most enduring elements did, through a practical decision that simply outlasted anyone's expectation of it.
Will it still take 4 hours before the car is ready?
Number 5. Shatner's first flight. William Shatner was on the wing of a Twilight Zone aircraft 3 years before he stood on the bridge of the Enterprise. Shatner appeared in Nightmare at 20,000 feet, playing a man on a commercial flight convinced a creature is tearing apart the engine outside his window. The episode aired in 1963. Star Trek debuted in 1966. The same actor who spent an episode selling a network audience on a man screaming at a gremlin on a plane wing went on, 36 months later, to command the most recognized fictional starship in American pop culture. That arc, Twilight Zone guest to franchise lead, wasn't unusual for the show's talent pipeline. The production consistently drew from the broader CBS talent pool and returned to familiar faces across multiple seasons. That pattern wasn't accidental. The production leaned on CBS's contract talent pool deliberately, casting performers before their signature roles had locked them into a single type, Shatner included. It meant the show could book real talent at anthology rates, and it meant a generation of actors carried the series with them long after their names became attached to something much bigger.
I look just like you.
Number 6. 4 Returns. Burgess Meredith appeared in 4 separate episodes of this series, and 2 years after it ended, he became the Penguin. Meredith is the only actor to return to the Twilight Zone 4 times across its run, in 1959, 1961, 1963, and 1964. His most famous appearance is Time Enough at Last in Season 1, but he came back 3 more times, making him the series' most returned guest by any measure. Meredith's 4 appearances spanned the full length of the original series, and in 1966, the same year Shatner debuted in Star Trek, he began playing the Penguin opposite Adam West in Batman, one of the decade's defining villain performances. The same actor who played a grieving bookworm surrounded by broken glasses became one of television's most recognizable antagonists. The production clearly understood what it had in him, long before the rest of the culture caught up. Number 7. Just Wanted to Read. The most emotionally durable character in the series wasn't a hero. He was a man who only wanted time to read. Henry Bemis, the character Burgess Meredith played in Time Enough at Last, survives a nuclear war and finds himself, briefly, the last man alive, with unlimited time and unlimited access to books, right before he drops and shatters his thick-lensed glasses. The prop department used Meredith's actual glasses for the shoot, rather than a purpose-built breakable substitute. And the distinctive look of those shattered frames, visually central to the episode's ending, was achieved with real lenses that broke on the first take as intended. The reason the ending still lands after 60 years isn't the nuclear backdrop, it's the smallness of what Bemis loses. Not civilization, just reading. That scale, personal rather than spectacular, was a deliberate craft choice, and it's something the series returned to, in different forms, throughout its run.
I don't want to know what's going to happen.
Number 8. The Unseen Gremlin. The most frightening thing about the creature in Nightmare at 20,000 Feet was how little of it the audience actually saw. The episode's threat depended entirely on a question the production refused to resolve. Is the creature real, or is the protagonist losing his mind? The gremlin appears and disappears at exactly the moments designed to preserve that uncertainty. The creature was portrayed by a performer in a practical suit, a production limitation the creative team converted into a structural asset by keeping it mostly off-screen. What made the episode function wasn't the antagonist's design, but the production's willingness to let Shatner carry almost the entire weight of it alone. The creature becomes real to the audience because Shatner performs as though it is, and the camera stays on his face long enough to trust him. The villain was, as much as anything, a test of a lead actor's credibility.
And go where we want to go. Anytime we please.
Number 9. A Complicated Legacy. George Takei appeared in The Encounter 2 years before Star Trek, and he has spoken about the episode since with measured, specific ambivalence. The Encounter aired in 1964. Takei debuted as Hikaru Sulu in Star Trek in 1966. Takei has addressed the episode in retrospect, acknowledging elements he found troubling in hindsight. The portrayal of his character as supernaturally susceptible to violence through a Japanese artifact, and his father's depiction as a wartime informant against fellow Japanese Americans. His comments have been measured. He's recognized the episode's attempt to engage with genuine historical wounds, internment, the unresolved grief of American veterans, while acknowledging the execution produced stereotypes it may not have set out to create. What's unusual about his position is its precision. Takei spent most of his career as a widely recognized public figure, while the episode itself was essentially absent from American screens, withheld from the syndication circuit that would otherwise have kept it in circulation.
The very best thing of all.
Number 10. Every revival falls short. The series has been formally revived 3 times, and the original 156 episodes remain the standard every version is still measured against. The Twilight Zone has returned 3 times: 1985 CBS revival, a 2002 UPN series, and a 2019 CBS All-Access production hosted by Jordan Peele. Each came with different hosts and a different relationship to Serling's voice. None matched the original run's 156 episodes. What What the revivals reveal is what the facts here have been pointing toward all along. The format was never a neutral container waiting to be refilled. It was built around one writer's specific response to the institutional pressures of one moment in American television. Serling had designed the anthology structure as camouflage for ideas that couldn't survive direct statement. That camouflage was personal. It fit him. When the structure was handed to someone else, the mechanism was there. The animating tension, one writer's moral vision pressing against every force trying to soften it, was not. The original remains the original, not because no one tried. 6 decades of imitation is its own kind of verdict on what Rod Serling built. What endures isn't the twist endings exactly. It's the feeling that the stories were trying to say something the era did not entirely permit them to say directly. Here is the question the record cannot answer. The encounter was off American television for roughly 50 years, and no one has ever publicly put their name on the decision to pull it. Was that a network call, a syndication distributor's judgment, a sponsor concern, or something more informal than any of those? The episode is available now. The decision that removed it is not.